Bruno, is we are continuing obviously with our upskill and education around mandates, working closely with the agents and the agencies. So the second question does deal once again with mandates. This one goes as follows: if owners sell a property in the last 3 months of a lease agreement, is the new owner obligated to continue the management with the agency whom placed the tenants? According to the new owners, they do not have a mandate with the agency, and the new owner themselves can decide if he wants to move management or over to another agency, or they can decide if they want to manage the property themselves. So, Bruno?
Sure. So two things that we need to understand here. Where do the relationships lie? So an estate agent has a mandate from a particular property owner, right? That's the relationship. It's not actually a relationship with the tenant per se. It's a mandate from the property owner. So that's the first thing that an agent needs to bear in mind. Now, does that sort of mandate survive a transfer of the property? It's not a lease agreement. So principles like Huur, gaat, voor, koop won't apply in those circumstances. So that's the first thing to bear in mind, is where does the relationship lie? The second thing to remember is that there is a very big difference between a procurement mandate and a management mandate. There's a whole different words people use to describe these mandates, but the reality behind it is one mandate. Normally the procurement mandate is the mandate that an estate agent has to find a tenant. Although it's not practice to charge, but only for that, especially if the agent continues to manage, the reality is a charge can be levied to find a suitable tenant for the property, even if the owner self-manages. And this is a practice that we now see is prevailing in areas like Cape Town, versus a management or leasing mandate where I could come to an agency right now today and hand over the management of a tenant that I procured myself, and ask the leasing agent to please just manage because I'm going abroad and I can't self-manage, right? So bearing in mind those 2 points and the distinctions in the 2 points, if you're selling a property and you've got a management mandate with the owner of the property, one needs to look at the wording of that particular mandate. That it's not going to automatically pass through to the new owner. So what happens in the circumstances where there's a sale? What is the owner permitted to terminate the mandate? And does the mandate / agreement provide or govern the circumstances around termination? And this is why, and I feel very strongly about this, and so do many people in the industry, I'm sure Nick, and I know some of the educators in this industry, where we feel that these mandates are not properly drafted. Reason being that there needs to be a conversation around, hi, I found you a tenant, for example. I'm not going to charge you a procurement fee, even though I am entitled to, but I do need to tie you in for a certain period of time in order for it to be lucrative or profitable for me to actually have found you this tenant and not charged you for it. So please, let's sign a 12-month fixed management agreement. In those 12 months, you're not allowed to terminate. You're allowed to terminate after the 12-month period, but before then, it's not permissible. Something like that, for example, speaks the language of, oh, well, the property is getting sold. Has the 12-month lapsed, as an example? Because if it hasn't, then in theory, this is an early termination, and now you can start looking at the laws around fixed term agreements and whether this accelerates the payment of the remaining commission, etc., etc. So the mandates have to be very clear on this. If this mandate simply says can be terminated on 30 days notice, which surprisingly enough is in fact the case, then the old landlord can terminate it. And if you go kicking and screaming saying, but I found you this tenant, you're not allowed to just terminate, well, you're going to need to back it up with an agreement. And if your agreement's silent on this topic, then you've basically abandoned the claim to charge a procurement fee in favor of a management fee. And unfortunately, now you need to live by that decision.
100%. Thank you once again, Bruno, for the mandate discussion. I will be creating a playlist under our channels, and then everybody can just go watch the grouped playlist on